Hey everyone, Bill Ethman here with Money Evolution. In this video, I'm going to be talking about 5 reasons that you should consider to do a Roth conversion in 2023. So let's jump right in. So reason number 1 for doing a Roth conversion should always be to consider what is my tax bracket today versus what do I think my tax bracket is going to be in the future. So if my tax bracket today is lower than what I think it's going to be in the future, then it makes sense to maybe consider doing that Roth conversion. So let's take a look at a quick example here. Let's say that you're considering to do a Roth conversion of $10,000. And let's say that today you're in a 25% tax bracket. So if you convert that money, that means you're going to have to pay taxes on that account, $2,500, and you'll end up with $7,500. Now, we're not getting into all the details here of where that $2,500 is coming from. We've talked about it in other videos that ideally that should come maybe from some non-retirement accounts if you can do that. But we're going to assume here that you're taking that money from the IRA account itself. So you're ending up with a conversion where you had $10,000 in a traditional, now you only have $7,500 in a Roth. And let's say that that money doubles over some period of time. It could be 10 years, it could be whatever, doesn't really matter. And at the end of that time period, you end up with an account that you have $15,000 in. Now, it's in a Roth account, assuming that it's a qualified distribution, you meet all the criteria, you can take that $15,000 out and you'll pay 0 taxes on that. Let's say that you left that money in a traditional IRA account and you doubled it just like you did the other one. So instead of having $15,000 at the end of the period, now you have $20,000 in a tax-deferred account, but you still have to pay some taxes. So we'll assume here that your tax rate's still that 25%. So 25% of $20,000 is $5,000 in taxes, and you end up at exactly the same place that you were with the Roth conversion. So if your tax brackets are going to remain constant through time, there's really no difference, contrary to what some people may think about or believe when it comes to that. If your tax bracket's going to stay the same, there's no difference between a Roth or a traditional account. Reason number 2 is because the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act rates are set to expire at the end of 2025, which means that we really, including 2023, only have 3 years to take advantage of what has become lower tax brackets pretty much across the board for all income tax brackets. So something I've talked about in other videos is the sweet spot for doing Roth conversions that I believe is that 24% tax bracket for most of us. That's where it's going to make the most sense. So for married filing joint tax return for 2023, you can have up to $364,200 in taxable income tax base and still just be in the 24% tax bracket. So up here on the screen, I have a table that I created, which takes a look at the 2017 tax tables, and then we applied just a standard rate of inflation. We used 2.44% for the inflation rate. Of course, last year, going into 2023, we had a higher inflation rate to the tax tables, but basically what we're looking at here is if we go out to 2026, according to this table that I created, the 25% tax bracket only goes up to $190,000. The 28% tax bracket goes up to $289,890, and above that, you're actually in a 33% tax bracket. So essentially, what the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act rates did is took from the 15% tax bracket all the way through the 25% bracket, the 28% bracket, and into the 33% bracket. Not all the way through, but it created basically, in my opinion, a Grand Canyon-sized opening in that tax table where you're going to be taxed at 24% versus what it was before, 25, 28, or sometimes even as much as 33%. The single tax table for 2023, you could go up to $182,100 of taxable income tax base and still be in that 24% bracket. So again, we only have 3 more years of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act rates. Of course, Congress could always do something before then. They could choose to extend them, but this is what we know today. Number 4 is something called the pro rata rules. And the pro rata rules are something we've talked about in other videos, and they're basically a set of rules the IRS has outlined that can make it difficult for us to do other Roth strategies, such as a backdoor Roth. So if we're thinking about doing a backdoor Roth IRA conversion strategy, the IRS is going to say, even if we fund a brand new IRA account and it's completely separate from all of our other IRAs, and let's say we put $7,000 into that account for the year, they're going to look at all of our IRA accounts collectively as one big account. So if we have another IRA account and we have something, let's say $150,000 in an existing IRA, then when we do the Roth conversion, and let's say we want to convert that $7,000 over to a Roth at that time, the IRS is going to look at this account, these two accounts actually, as one account that has $157,000 in it. And they're going to look at it and say $7,000 of that account is money that has already been taxed, so it's not going to be taxed again, and $150,000 of that is money that has not been taxed yet, but they're going to do it on a proportional basis. So when you move this $7,000 over, they're actually going to say that only about 4.4% of the conversion is going to be tax-free. So obviously not the situation that you want to be in if you're going to do this Roth conversion. Not only does it not accomplish what you want, but now you have this remaining money, this $150,000, which is going to consist of some money that's taxable and some money that is non-taxable. And you're going to have to keep track of it as long as you have that money in that account. So one of the reasons for doing a Roth conversion, again, you always want to look at where you fall in the tax bracket and everything, but let's say you have a small IRA account. Let's say you have $30,000 in a traditional IRA account. By doing a conversion of that $30,000 and getting that moved over to a Roth account, now maybe if that's your only IRA account, opens up the option for you to be able to do that backdoor strategy. And the backdoor strategy effectively is to fund that non-deductible traditional IRA accounts. You're not getting any benefit going in, but then you can immediately convert that over to a Roth account and get the tax-free growth of that. And that's for people that are maybe over the income limit, so they don't qualify for making a contribution directly to a Roth, but that's kind of a workaround there. So something to think about there. Another reason for doing Roth conversion here along this line is sometimes people have made contributions to their IRA account on an after-tax basis, and now they have this account that has some portion that's taxable and some portion that's non-taxable. And so you may have, let's say, $150,000 in that account, but maybe you've made over the years $50,000 in non-deductible contributions, or maybe it's a bigger portion of that account. And so you could convert those amounts. Now, it's still going to be on a proportional basis, but you can then do that, get that money working for you over in the Roth without having to pay taxes on the whole thing. One last thing on this is for individuals that have money in an after-tax account as a part of their retirement savings plan through their employer. 2014 made some rules changes on this, where you can now take that after-tax money that's in an employer-sponsored plan and roll it directly over to a Roth IRA account. So multiple avenues here as it relates to sort of the pro rata rules and some of this after-tax money that you might have inside these IRAs or even a 401k plan. Number 5 is the 5-year rule. So this isn't so much as a reason to do a Roth conversion, but something you definitely need to be thinking about if you are going to do Roth conversions. So the 5-year rule on Roth conversions works a lot differently than the 5-year rule does on Roth contributions. So the 5-year rule on contributions says that basically as long as it's been 5 years since you put your first dollar into a Roth IRA account, as long as you meet some of the other criteria like 59 and a half and everything, you can start taking qualified distributions from that Roth IRA account, but it's got to be 5 years from the first contribution. But on a conversion, every conversion starts a new 5-year window. So if you do a conversion in 2023, it's going to be 5 years from 2023 before that money is going to become eligible. And the reason why I think this is important is because for anybody that's going into retirement, and if you're thinking at all about using that money for retirement spending, you may have some of that money that may not yet be available. And I've actually seen this a couple of times in our financial planning practice where somebody has literally converted almost all of their money over to a Roth IRA account, but hasn't met the 5-year window, but they want to take an early retirement and they thought they were going to be able to live off of tax-free money from the Roth, but that wasn't the case because they were restricted by that 5-year rule option. So definitely something to think about there and make sure that that's not going to be something that's going to hurt you down the road. But we love Roth conversions, but you make sure you do your homework and make sure that you understand all the different nuances with doing a Roth conversion before doing it. So again, if you like this video, if you hit that like or subscribe button, we would really appreciate that. If you want to check out some of the things that we do, like our comprehensive financial planning called Wealth Vision, our retirement planning course called the Retirement Time Machine, or some great free resources, we've got some links down below the video there. Be sure to check those out, and I look forward to seeing you back in one of our next videos. Thanks.